How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I figured it was about time to do another episode of sharing the stories that you all have sent in to me. I've been feeling a bit under the weather as of late, so please forgive the lack of more traditional style van life vlogs at the moment. Also forgive the completely different change of scenery from the last episode where we had a lovely fire and the woodlanded backdrop. Like I said, I've been a little sick. And it's a bit cold outside, and so we're just going to stay inside the tiny home and share some stories. I thought that would be a very nice way to sort of spend the evening with you all tonight, or whenever time of day it is when you happen to be watching this video. So, without any further ado, let's get right into it. The first story I'm going to share with everybody tonight comes from Jan. She writes in and she says, "Hey, Putty Cat Dad. Being the stereotypical Nana, food addict, my camping kitchen has matured over the years. In my tiny camper kitchen, a 5-pound bag of sugar was ridiculous. And it also invited some less than desirable, multi-legged guests. Now, Ziploc bags are nice for some staples, but the guests can come snack right into the bags. Emptied and washed creamer jars are some of my favorite storage containers. I even crack a dozen eggs into one and pour them out one at a time when cooking. Tiny containers, see, like I said, I'm not feeling very well. Forgive me, Jan. Tiny containers, gum or Tic Tac, work great for spices or baking powder / soda. We have a local store that sells bulk spices, rice, flour, and lots of what my mom called her pantry staples. So you can buy a teaspoon or 2 of a spice and not a 10-year supply. The other tool I use to make camping a little bit smoother is a journal. I created a page that I copy for each trip. It has a list of essentials that I ensure are stocked. I also plan meals so I can make sure I brought spaghetti noodles if I planned a spaghetti feast. The journal also has a page to note where you've been, what amenities were available, and the spots that we deemed the penthouse locations. Thanks for sharing your journey with your gorgeous felines. I dream of a simple van life, but my old hoarding habits wake me." Jan. Awesome. Thank you very much for writing in, Jan. I love the sharing of your pro tips, for lack of a better term. Term. I especially can relate to the idea of putting all of your eggs into one container and just pouring them out one at a time as you need one. It was an old girlfriend of mine that actually showed me putting eggs into like a to-go water bottle, right? You crack them all in there and you could save them with the yolks and pour them out as you need them. What we did is we just shook them up and then we just poured them all out, and that's how we transported scrambled eggs to camp when we were back in the days when we were camping with like my Jeep Wrangler and a tent and whatnot. So that's a very good pro tip. I like all of that stuff. And the journal, when it comes to that, that's awesome. I do something very similar. If y'all are new to the channel, I had one of my amazing subscribers, hi Kathy, send me the camping logbook at the beginning of this past camping season. And my cousin took it upon herself to write down all of that, the sort of information that you mentioned as well, for all of the camping spots that we went to, which is like nicer camping spots, highlights of the trip, places to avoid, routes to get there. That's a great idea. I'm going to add on to that, and this isn't something that I've talked about too much on my channel, but when I first got my van, I got a little notebook, just a blank, lined notebook about, this big. And as I was going through and doing my maintenance on the van, oil change, my shocks, my spark plugs, changing the fan belt, all of that sort of stuff, I was writing down the size of sockets or wrenches that I needed for all those bolts. So like I know that my oil drain plug is a 15mm socket, and then I know that my brake pad caliper bolts are 18mm or whatever they might be. As opposed to having to look it up every single time. So it's nice to just go to keep all of that information in one neat location. Thank you again, Jan, for writing in. All right, and we got a little bit of a longer one here. This one comes from Glenn, and he writes in and he says, "Hi, Matt. Here is a brief synopsis of my story. At least I will try to be brief." Sounds like me. It starts with my wife dying suddenly back on October 9th, 2019. It was a shock since I never had a chance to say goodbye to her. It was that sudden. Financially, she was the main breadwinner as I have been on permanent disability for the past 23 to 24 years. After she died, I started to collect survival benefits in addition to my disability. Thus, my only income was Social Security. I live in the United States. The year following her death, my landlord decided to sell the property I was living in, and the new owners didn't want to rent, so I had to move out. Of course, this was in the middle of the pandemic, and the housing market was totally upside down, and I couldn't purchase a house or condo that was worth it, 3 to 5 times market value. My real estate agent kept showing me properties over about 6 months, but every single one was a bust, even though I was paying full cash and above what the property was worth. People still kept outbidding me. During those 6 months, I was researching van life as an alternative, and I'm glad I did, as it ended up being what I was going to have to do. At that time, the second half of 2020, I was following people like Bob Wells at Cheap RV Living and Chrome over at Van City Van Life, as well as a few others, and I was able to learn a lot about what to do and what mistakes to avoid in getting into van life. In February of 2021, I moved into my small camper van, a 2020 Ram ProMaster City with a conversion by Wayfarer Vans. And I spent the next 7 months living in my van and traveling up and down the east coast of the U.S. Slept in every state from Maine to Florida. August of 2021, my health wasn't doing very well, in congestive heart failure, and I moved into a friend's house. It's a good thing that I did. 2 months later, on October 7th, 2021, my heart slowed down until it ended up stopping completely. They were able to bring me back with the paddles. I have spent the last little over a year working on my health and have lost a significant amount of weight, changed my doctors and medications, etc. I am currently waiting on a larger 2023 Ram ProMaster 2500 high top, but they have been on back order, but hoping to have it by February 3rd, as that is when it is scheduled to go in for the conversion. My hope is to be in it come April 2023. The newest development is that I am going to be moving out of my friend's home come the end of this month, November 2022, and temporarily moving back into my ProMaster City, but will be snowbirding down to Florida to avoid the extremely cold temperatures in the Philadelphia area. So that is my story. I want to thank you for your channel and sharing so much with us viewers. You are now one of my inspirations as my list of van lifers I follow has continued to grow. You are one of the more entertaining ones. If you are so inclined, I have recently launched or relaunched a YouTube channel, but my videos aren't as engaging as yours are, but I am learning and hoping to get better with time. Once I get back on the road, I will hopefully be able to get better footage to edit into something better. Oh, that channel name is Simply Celtic Van Life. You have seen me over in your live streams. Stay well and travel on. Glenn M. Ryan. Yes, I see you in the live streams. I also see you supporting me in the comments, my man. Thank you very much for sharing your story. That was, that's a lot to share, and that's very brave. And thank you very much for sharing that. I can't even begin to imagine what you went through with a loss like that. I won't sit here and pretend like I can. You are a very, very strong soul for making it through it as you have, along with all of your other challenges that have been presented to you. And it seems like you have done it with true grit and bear it enthusiasm. I love that that's a little, not quite the right way to say it. I don't love what you've gone through, but I love that even in spite of everything you've gone through, you're ending the story by looking at your future. This is what I want. I want this. I'm going to have this brand new van. I've got it scheduled to go in for its conversion. And you're going right back into your tiny, tiny home on wheels for the winter and heading down to Florida. I think your wife would be very proud of you, my man, if it's not too bold of me to say. Thank you very much for sharing. I will try to find a link to your YouTube channel and put it in the description of this video. Thank you again, Glenn. All right. This next story comes from Vicky. She says, "Hi, Matt. Well, here goes nothing. So after a 25-year relationship, I say about 12 years in, my ex and I took over his family business, a scrapyard, and all was going well till I discovered he was doing drugs and had went through almost all of our savings. Had to tell his dad to get him into rehab, though all was going well. Fast forward. 12 more years, and it was worse than ever. My son, from a previous marriage, had moved to another state and found out what was going on. Needless to say, he came and rescued me from a very dangerous situation. We left in the middle of the night, left everything behind that I had. I started over again with nothing, and unfortunately had to take the first job that called me, Walmart. It didn't pay much 12 years ago. It didn't pay much 12 years ago to live on, so I have been living with my sister and my son till he got married. I just wanted to have something to call my own that no one could take from me. So last year, at 61 years of age, I bought a 2003 shuttle bus, and my son and his father-in-law have helped me make it into a camper RV, and it's almost complete. Now I just need to work on the mechanical components. Dollars and dollars and dollars went on my maiden voyage camping trip for Halloween with my 6-year-old grandson, and I loved it. So here's proof that you can start over at any age. Thank you very much, Vicky. That's probably a story that a lot of people can relate to on a whole bunch of different levels. Even myself, my van life started I feel like my van life was a phoenix that rose out of the ashes of a whole bunch of different things that had just utterly burned to the ground. Relationship obviously was one of them as well. And just just working at Walmart, first place to call you. Yeah, I didn't pay much 12 years ago. I can't imagine it pays very much now anymore, or now either. But a job is a job is a job, sister. So good for you. And I love that you had such a good time on your maiden voyage and that you had your grandson along with you for the ride. I think that is just such a super cool moment. And he is going to absolutely treasure those moments with his absolutely badass grandma. Super cool. I love that people can just do this thing, like take your life back, take it into your own hands. Just what you said there, I wanted something that nobody could take from me. Right? I can relate to that. You know what? Let's do one more. I did 3 last time. Let's do 4 this time. All right. This last one comes from Victoria. No relation to Vicky, though. Victoria writes in and says, "Hi, Matthew. Thank you for taking the time. Just reading it is appreciated of my email. Where to begin? I had thought about van life back in the 70s when you were considered a hippie if you did it. Then I did what was expected of me and got married. The idea came back about 3 years ago when I rethought this idea again so that I could avoid almost $1,400 in rent plus utilities. Well, now I've been separated from my job because I used up all my FMLA, but then I fell in the department store bathroom and ended up in the hospital for a month. I was told while in the hospital that my position had been posted, and by the time I was done with physical therapy, they hired somebody else. While I try to work out those details, I need to figure out my living situation. I can drive wreckers. My ex-husband and his father had a towing business back in the 80s that I got involved as it was the only way I would ever see him, so I'm not afraid of bigger trucks like vans as long as I can see out the back. My career is science-based. I don't know if you know what a histologist does, but for more than 45 years, I have covered the entire spectrum of this field, human and mammal, basics to molecular. It's so interesting. But my condition makes people nervous, and when I had to go on oxygen, I could feel the beginning of the end. My issue is medical, which had something to do with my job separation. I have a condition that requires that I use a walker, add the oxygen because of the illness as well, and the oxygen because of the illness as well. I don't need to drink because I have done enough drugs to make me go without pain on good days. Because I have enough drugs to make me go without pain on good days. My apologies. Stairs is something to be avoided, but getting in a truck would mean a little bit of acrobatic ability, and good upper arm strength. Low-rise step stools might work as well, so long as I have something to grab. I did this calculation and also tried a step stool at Lowe's. I have thought about all the work that would need to be done from insulation to battery/generator power. I have done house insulation long ago when asbestos was still no problem. But electrical, other than computers and plumbing, is Greek to me. I know the advantages of the traveling throne, and that's great. We used them when we went camping or on skiing holidays because some people hog the bathroom. It works, but I have a thing about dishes, so I would like to try some sort of plumbing. Even if it drained into a 10-gallon carboy, I could still find somewhere to dump biodegradable dishwater and tooth cleaning, stuff. I thought about the shower thing also, but reality is that I am not able to use one now. I have been taught what to do as an alternative. It means the need for water, but if I can handle it using a basin. I'm going to see if I can get my neighbor to help me. But for the most part, I am on my own. I have been trying to find a van that is extended and high enough for a 5'6" person to stand up in with insulation and ceiling fans. 2017 maybe, Chevy or Ford. I looked at the Dodge ones, but they are way too low and small. I don't want my non-conformity to be the reason not to try, but I was sort of thinking that maybe you could talk about it with the people who are open to discussion. I need a home and I would like to travel before my condition might get worse. I would also like to adopt 2 older cats as I am so very lonely after losing my cat of 18 years. I want to find space to paint, sew, cook, find trails that are not too rugged, even if I have to stop 150 times or my legs will give out, but financial matters first. Do you think people would be willing to discuss this, or would they be afraid of it? I don't want anyone to be uncomfortable. It's a long email, but I was trying to get all the parts in. Thank you for your time in reading this. Best regards, Vicky. Thank you very much for writing in, Vicky. It's your absolutely solid commitment to determination is something to be applauded, and I'm sure that lots of people in this community would love the opportunity to chime in and give you some feedback regarding your situation. So if you guys have any ideas or thoughts about what Vicky could do, leave them in the comments below. I will leave a few, obviously. I have talked about a lot of these on the channel in my last couple like necessary items videos and whatnot. But when it comes to finding a high top, Chevy or Ford, Chevy's going to be harder to find. They don't make Chevy high tops. That would have to be one that's already been converted, or you'd have to pay to have the roof lifted. The new Ford Transits do come in high tops. And the Dodge ones, the ProMasters are available in high tops. Maybe check out a channel called The Fine Print. He lives in a Dodge Ram ProMaster van that is high top and would work, that you could absolutely stand up in. So don't give up there. Lots of options for sure. It sounds like you've given this a lot of thought, and I applaud you on that for sure. And again, when it comes to the sink, I totally agree. I lived my first year of van life with my sink setup, which was just, you can get just this little faucet from camping stores that it's supposed to just screw onto the top of a water bottle, like those big 5-gallon ones, and then it's just a USB powered pump. You can charge it up and then you press the button on top and you've got running water. And I installed that in my water station with a sink that I made out of a stainless steel bowl, and that drains right into a water bottle. And that's what became my gray water tank effectively, right? I don't really use the running water feature anymore. I've discovered that just bottled water is more than enough for me. But the sink, 100%. So I totally get that, and it's absolutely easy to find places to get rid of your gray water waste, we will say. But yeah, thank you very much for everybody who wrote in. I'm really enjoying reading everybody's stories. I love that there's almost a through line, no matter what anybody's experience. We've all got a similar way of thinking. I mean, obviously, aside from just the nomadic living in a vehicle angle of it, but just the wanting to take it back for ourselves, wanting to experience new things. And I think that's what sort of really speaks, at least to me, that's what spoke to me and continues to speak to me about this lifestyle for sure. So I'm going to leave this one here, you guys. If any of you would also like to write in and share some of your stories with me and the community, you can do so at the email address vanlifepluscontact@gmail.com. Please don't hesitate to send in your stories. I'm really enjoying doing this. And until the next one, you guys, just go out there, be happy, be creative, be yourselves. Most importantly, be positive, and I'll see you all in the next one.